What's up, friends? Today we are here on another shortboard. And this one is one from Veymax, which is my first one from Veymax ever. This is the Mini Monster Neo. So to break down the sort of product line for you, there's 3 different versions of their Mini. One of them has EVE 50E cells, which is this one, the Neo. One of them has, I think, 50S cells, and then one of the other ones has, I think, Moly cell. I'll have to check on the web page, and I'll put it on the screen what the 3 different versions are. But this one is the Neo, and I think this one is the cheapest of the Monster series, and it also has unique wheels compared to the other ones. So this little guy I actually thought was quite interesting. A lot of mini boards are not super interesting to me because they're sort of similar, and I don't use them a whole lot. But this one caught my eye because it's a 14S board, and I don't think there's any other 14S mini board out there. Now, it's questionable what benefit 14S can bring to a short board when realistically you don't need to be going very fast on these things. And I think the fastest I've ever gone on a short board is like 25, and you can definitely get by without being on 14S to get to 25 miles an hour. On the other hand, the Ripple can't quite make it there, but that's on 10S. So think about the other shortboard that I've looked at recently, the Max Fine Cyber Mini X. That's a 12S 2P. That makes it to 26, I think, something like that. It was my max that I got to. And this one, I believe the claimed max speed is like 32 or something. Honestly, I don't really have huge intentions to go all the way up to that speed, except for my performance testing. And when I do that, the trucks will be nice and tight. So, yeah, I think the benefits are questionable, but it does give you another way to add a little bit more watt hours into the pack without going up an entire P group. Because fitting a 12S 3P in here is not going to be as easy as fitting in a 14S 2P, right? Because 14S 2P is what? 14 times 2, 28 cells. 12S 3P is 36 cells. So it's a pretty big difference in real estate that you need inside of the enclosure. And to be honest, the enclosure on this board is pretty compact. Despite that, it still ends up weighing in at, I believe I clocked it at 19 pounds. So it's not really the lightest, most portable shortboard out there, but it's not bad. And it's definitely light enough for you to one hand through a store. So it has its benefits for sure. And I think it looks really slick. There are a number of other boards from other manufacturers that have copied this sort of boosted mini style. But I really like how this one came out. The enclosure design is neat. I like the boxiness of it. And I have always been a fan of the boosted style mini decks because I think they look cool. Whether they're the most comfortable thing ever, I have yet to find out because I've never ridden a boosted mini. But I like the foot stance on this one. The front truck is right where you want your front foot to be. So you're sort of standing over the truck, which is very different than a normal longboard where you're standing quite a bit behind the front truck. It gives you a very different sort of leverage. Also, we're going 23 miles an hour right now. I feel pretty stable, all things considered. Not bad at all. Maybe this will actually make its top speed. But yeah, so speaking of the trucks, This is on 2 RKP trucks, thank goodness. I am tired of seeing DKPs on everything. I don't think that TKP is a good style of truck for this kind of deck. And honestly, you can get some pretty nice carviness out of well set up RKPs. And these ones have felt pretty good so far. I did 1 mile on this prior to this ride to sort of go around the park and just feel the board. Very low speed though, so not a testament to truck performance. But they felt pretty good, to be really hard to turn with their, I think it's 93A bushings that are in there. But honestly, it's really not bad. And the responsiveness is good. It's not quite as carvy as my Ripple, but I think it's a little more carvy than the Max Finds that I have in my garage right now. So it's not bad. I like it. So there's a lot of other things that we haven't touched on yet. So next thing, paired with the 14S 2P battery, we have a Hobbywing 14S speed controller. I believe the website says a 9028. And it's been pretty smooth so far. The one complaint that I do have is that there's some throttle lag. And I haven't seen throttle lag on a Hobbywing ESC in a long time. So it makes me wonder, like, if maybe this is an older ESC that is just happening to be capable of 14S rather than a brand new ESC that Hobbywing made for 14S. But I guess at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. What does matter is how well it performs. And the throttle lag alone is enough for me to take some points off in terms of my ESC rating. So I don't know if there's any possible fix for this or anything. I highly doubt that there's anything in settings that can adjust that. But basically what I'm talking about is when you go on throttle and then let off, it doesn't respond immediately. It gives you like a quarter second more throttle, and it gives you a lot less connection with the board. It makes you feel like you're not directly commanding it to do what you want it to do. You're like almost lagging, for lack of a better word. Brakes on here are pretty good. I will say, at 0 miles an hour, there is a kind of weird stutter if you're on a hill. It's almost like it wants to do a hill hold or something, but it doesn't quite have enough power. So that's interesting as well. I'm not sure what causes that, but I've not felt that on many other boards. But overall, the ESC experience has been decent so far. It's definitely not the most powerful thing in the world. I can full throttle it pretty much no problem when I'm standing upright. If you do have your foot on the rear, what do you call it? The kicktail, I guess? Yeah, kicktail. If you have your foot on there and you full throttle it at a standstill, it will pop a wheelie on you. And someone more skilled than me could probably do a manual on here, like a wheelie manual. I tried it earlier, did not work out very well because the throttle control is not precise enough for me to, at least for me, to keep it up there. So we talked about ESC, battery. The deck is sort of similar to a boosted Mini. I don't know if the construction is similar at all. Regardless, it's very stiff. I don't really feel any give in this deck at all, which makes me terrified of doing the range test because I think my feet are going to absolutely die. So there's that. But the shape is nice. I like it for kicking around. I just don't think that I'll be able to ride it for very long comfortably. So this may just be a symptom of a lot of short decks and me not having ridden a lot of them, maybe I'm expecting too much, but it's certainly not that comfortable. What does make up for that a little bit is these wheels, which, as far as I can tell, are just Matt Eastgate 105s with the Veymax logo on them. They look pretty much identical, they feel identical, and they're 105s. So I feel like it's pretty safe to say that there's some acquisition going on there with Veymax having access to the Matt Eastgate factory, or maybe Matt Eastgate sold them some to brand themselves. I don't know. The whole back end of the white labeling industry is a little confusing to me at times. There's no real way to know exactly who's doing what without being integrated into the supply chain or knowing exactly where people get their stuff from. And that's just not realistic for me. Speaking of battery, this thing is doing quite well. I charged it one time before ever stepping foot on this. I did a mile at very low speed, and we've currently done about 3.5 miles at around 20 miles an hour. So a total of 4.7 miles. And the battery is still, for a shortboard with a 2P battery, I gotta say I'm a little bit impressed that it hasn't dropped a single bar. And on top of that, there's no sag. So I don't know too much about the EVE 50E cell, but it certainly seems to be holding its own for this particular application. And apparently there is a crash up here. Nice. Well, it seemed like everyone was good. Anyway, I'm impressed by the battery life so far. No sag at all. In another recent video, you will have seen one of the boards I tested actually had sag from the very start. So, might have to look into these EVE cells for DIYs with high P groups. I'm sure they don't do a ton of discharge amps, but as we have seen in the past with these Hobbywing ESCs, they really seem to sip power for how much output they can do. And I think a large capacity cell like the EVE, it's probably a great application for getting more range on that power sipping ESC. Does that make sense? It made sense in my head. It sounded worse when I started saying it, but regardless, my experience so far on this has been pretty good. We're going about 25 miles an hour right now, uphill, so not really bad on the ESC power. Definitely punching above a lot of other mini boards on the market, I think. And we've just dropped our first battery bar at 5.5 miles. Really, really not bad. I'm interested to see how this will do on the uphill side of the rolling resistance hill. I think it'll easily be able to do the 25 miles an hour of that section. Remote on this thing, I guess, is the next thing I want to touch on. It actually comes with this really neat metal frame. If you're someone that drops your remote all the time, this will definitely help keep it protected. And I think it looks cool. As far as comfort goes, you definitely notice it there, but this remote is kind of small to begin with. It's not like super small. It's sort of like the standard old style Hobbywing remote. It's got a screen on it with some basics: remote battery, board battery, direction, miles an hour, trip, and odometer. So it gets the job done, but it's not going to have the crazy amount of settings that the newer ones have, like the A-Stack version, which isn't Hobbywing, by the way. I think there is an extended settings menu that you can enter, because I saw it in the user manual, but I haven't checked it out yet, and that'll be something that we check out in the full review. So overall experience has been good, and I like how these trucks respond. I think at higher speed they might feel a little bit wobbly maybe. Kind of hard to tell right now. And you definitely feel the height of the 105s. But the good thing is, I tested this while standing still. It seems like we don't have any wheel bite, which is quite a feat. If you recall on the Max Cyber Mini X, I actually got wheel bite when I was doing a sharp turn, and this deck is not. It's got quite a bit of riser on here actually, and then there's also wheel cutouts in the deck to prevent you from getting wheel bite. So obviously they at least tested this board a little bit and landed on that riser and cutout combination, which seems to work pretty well so far. We're pretty much at the end of this ride, but I want to show you the underside. This is the enclosure, very boxy design, and it looks like these are 95A bushings all around and barrels all around. So that's going to give you a pretty stable setup. If you wanted something more carvy, you could probably change the roadside bushings to cones instead. One thing I've noticed is that this battery flap, or this charging flap, is always kind of flapping around. I wish it was a little tighter. But they did use a nicer charging connector than a lot of other companies use. A lot of companies default to the, what do you call it, the barrel plug, and Veymax has gone for a higher quality one. There's also an integrated tail light here, which is cool. I don't know how you turn it on, or if I have to charge it or what. Oh, there we go. I think this is one of those reactive ones that'll get brighter when you brake. But in any case, it's cool that it's integrated on here. Give you a little bit more visibility at nighttime. And it looks like this this mount for it is sort of just a backing plate that the screws go straight into with tapped holes. So that's a pretty interesting decision. I also find it interesting that it misses the ground mostly when you kick it up. I've done a little bit of kicktailing around, and it actually does look like it's scraped a little bit. And the skid plate is mostly underneath the light, so I'm a little confused on that design choice. But overall, I think it's a pretty good looking board. I really like the idea of having mad wheels on here, and while it does detract a little bit from your connection with the road, I guess, it gives you a good comfort improvement on a deck that's super stiff. And you can see there, I'm just adding a little bit of throttle. The front end really wants to come up, but because there's some throttle lag, it's kind of hard to modulate it enough to get a nice manual. But I'm sure someone could do it if they tried hard enough. In any case, that's going to be our first ride video for this. If you have any questions about this board, leave them down in the comments below, and I will start working on the full review. We'll do our performance testing, get some more miles on it, and form a really solid opinion. Veymax has started to sort of go in a more premium direction, or at least that's what it seems like. Looking at their latest product releases, the Nymph board is pretty cool. It looks really nice, and it's definitely punching a lot higher above their old product line. And this is one of the other boards in that new product line. Going to 14S, having the 105s, adding a brake light mount. Seems like a lot of good decisions, good battery cells, and I have to give Veymax some respect for actually putting the battery cells on their website. Too many e-skate companies just don't list their battery cells. Like, it would be nice if they just listed it so you could know what you're dealing with. I don't really care if you use a Chinese cell, like an EVE is a Chinese cell from a reputable manufacturer, but it makes it a lot easier for me when you just list your cell instead of me having to open your board and look at what cells are in it. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is a little bit of a shorter one, but short board, short video. I don't know. I had a good time. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, keep on riding, and peace out.